There are so many reasons why we lose touch with creativity when we're adults. And one question that I get a lot from people is, how do I find a really good creative hobby or activity that I can do? It's going to make me feel good and I won't give up on. So today we're going to look at different types of creative activities and how you can pick ones that can maybe best support your state of mind or really support and nurture the creativity that you have inside you based on your own skills and interests. I like to think of creativity as having different types, although obviously there are many different ways that people can be creative, depending on maybe your frame of mind or the mood you're in or just what you're needing in this moment. That you might want to look at a different type of creativity that's going to help you to maybe express a feeling, move your body, or just get into that flow state that really helps your mind to relax. So let's look at some of these types and the different activities that there are connected to them. And maybe that will help to trigger some ideas of things that are going to be good for you to do based on how you're feeling right now. The first type of creativity is creative self-expression. This is the type of creativity that really allows you to tap into your feelings and express your emotions. And you can do that through all sorts of different things like journaling, drawing, painting, expressive dance or movement. I like to think of these kinds of activities as things that really require you to engage your deep emotional well, and that allows you to also move that energy out of your body. When you do these types of activities, you definitely need to have an emotional headspace to do it. You need to have a little bit of energy because you're probably tapping into something that might feel a little bit tiring while you're doing it, just because you're bringing up a lot of emotions. These types of activities are really great when you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed or anxious, or you just feel like you've got a lot of things bubbling up inside you and you need to get them out. One way I like to tap into this energy when I don't have a ton of energy myself is to create a playlist based on a mood or a feeling that I have. If you have an interest in playing a musical instrument or singing, dancing, these are also really great ways of using your body. You can also reflect on the feelings you're having or maybe a situation or something that brought up a lot of emotions in you, and then seek to express it through your favorite means of expression. If you're having a hard time really getting specific about what's happening, or maybe the emotions are really big and you don't want to deal with them directly, you can also do something like write a short story, write a poem, or just dance and move your body. Creative practices for self-expression are also really good when you're feeling like you don't have the words you need to describe how you're feeling or what you're experiencing. It allows you to channel your emotions into something really tangible, and that gives you this sense of emotional release. And you can do it in a way that maybe isn't as direct as talking about your feelings. And that can help you to keep your nervous system regulated if you're finding that talking about something difficult can really flood your body with stress hormones and emotions. So creative self-expression activities are really great to do when you're needing that sense of release or you're just needing to get that energy and that emotion out of your body. Another type of creative practice I like to call the mind-body connection. Mind-body connection activities really allow you to engage creativity inside your brain with tactile or movement-based things that your body is doing that are going to help you to create that flow state and also move energy out of your body. These types of practices can really calm the nervous system because you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system through the use of creativity, and also a little bit of somatic activity, usually through repetitive movement. And this combination really does create a nice calming effect. When you focus on movement or touch, you're also releasing physical tension and you're signaling safety to your body. Mind-body connection activities can include things like weaving, knitting, anything that involves counting or repetitive movements. Crochet, cross stitch, pottery is another really good one, or working with clay, something where your hands are physically moving, hopefully in some kind of a rhythm. If it's not your hands, it can also be movement of your body. You can do this through dance or yoga, and I want you to include some type of creative visualization while you're working on those activities. Mind-body connection practices are really great when your body is feeling like it has restless energy, when you know you need to move something out of your physical body. It can help when you're feeling disconnection from your body. If you've ever had that experience where you just don't fully feel like you're in your own body, these can be great activities because it really does draw your attention back to what is happening within yourself. These types of activities are really great when you're stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze response. because they do actually help your brain and your body to calm down. You can think of it as a way of grounding your body through creative practice. Another type of creative activity you can think about, I like to call mind decluttering. And what I mean by that is they're allowing you to get into that flow state where you're not having to focus so much on what you're actually doing, but you're using maybe rhythm and movement to allow your brain to have a little vacation. And it feels really nice when you kind of come back into your senses and pay attention and you feel like you've had a good rest. The goal of this type of activity is to not have intense focus on something. So you want to be doing activities that don't really require a lot of patience or coordination or paying attention. And some of those can be things like doodling, coloring in an adult coloring book. You could be making a collage. Those are really great ways that you can just kind of get yourself into a zone and allow that flow state to come through. These are really great activities for when your mind is racing or you're feeling overwhelmed and you just need it to slow down. It helps you to calm a busy mind. It's kind of like a gentle mental reset when you're feeling overwhelmed or your mind is really busy. There's also social creativity, which can be really fun. Maybe you're an extrovert, or maybe that's just kind of the way you prefer to do things. Social creativity allows you to engage in some type of a creative activity with other humans. You can also work together as a group on some type of a project. So that could be something like practicing or rehearsing a play, doing an improv class, or working with other people to complete something, singing in a choir, playing in a band. These are all things that are social in nature and kind of giving you that sense of connection to other people. And if you don't want to be immersed in a project with other people, you could just take an art class or photography class, or maybe join a knitting group or your local guild, like a weaving guild or a potter's guild. There are many different activities where people come together to practice their own individual craft, but you still get that opportunity to connect and chat with other people. You should really try to use social creativity when you're feeling isolated or you're needing that connection back out into your community. I think one of the best things about this type of creativity is it also forms really lasting relationships and friendships, because you're connecting with people over something that you already enjoy and love, but also you're creating space for each other to share creatively, to express their emotions. Maybe even to just talk through your day. There's so many wonderful things about getting together with a group of people and being creative. And so this is definitely a good one to try if you're feeling like you need that connection. Experimental creativity is more about play and exploration. And this can really come in when you're feeling like you need some motivation, you need to change things up, you're feeling a little bit stuck. In this type of creativity, you're focused on the process, not on the end result. And so you don't want to pick things where you really want to have an amazing outcome of something. You just want to do something that's going to allow you to have some fun and try different skills or different techniques that are going to allow you to enjoy something new. Some examples here of things you can do are abstract art, experimenting with new materials and techniques, which there's a lot of different artistic mediums that you can do that in, or you can even play around with different shapes, forms, and textures. So things like sculpting, maybe mixed media art, making a collage. You can also think about things like puzzles or mind games. These are all different ways that you can use creativity in an exploratory way. The best time to use this type of creativity is when you're feeling stuck or in a rut and you need to move yourself past a mental obstacle or block. Especially if you're feeling like perfectionism, I need to be doing the best possible job. This type of thing is something that is meant to fail at. You're not supposed to be at your best or the best person who can complete this task. You're just supposed to enjoy what it is that you're doing. So this is a good technique to use if you're feeling that pressure to be really good. These types of activities also really help you to break out of any type of rigid routine or expectations you're putting on yourself and just have a little fun. Introspective activities focus on self-reflection and personal exploration. These types of activities allow you to dive really deep into your emotions, thoughts, and experiences. And any activity in this area is going to give you some sense of personal growth and a deeper understanding of yourself. Examples of this type of creativity include journaling, creating a mood board or vision board, writing poetry or essays or even short stories, and certainly any kind of drawing, painting, or artistic expression that's allowing you to slow down and get deep into your feelings. These kinds of activities are best to do when you need to seek some kind of clarity within yourself, you're needing some time alone with yourself, or you know you need to process some emotions. Maybe you had a tough week and you just want to spend some time letting that out onto a piece of paper. These are also really great activities if you're at a time in life where you have a lot of life transitions, or maybe just things are happening in your life that feel big and overwhelming. It's great to incorporate these kinds of activities regularly into your schedule. Structured creativity is really about the types of activities that have clear, direct steps and actions that you take. And I always think of Lego when I'm thinking of this type of activity because there's clear instructions. You're still using your own creativity, but you're doing it in a way that has some structure. This type of activity really does create boundaries and structure, and that can really help when you're having decision-making fatigue. Like, say you're in the middle of a move and you're setting up your new apartment or home and you've got to figure out where everything goes and you're just feeling exhausted by that. These are great activities to try to do that are going to give your brain some structure and make it feel like there aren't so many things you have to figure out. And that can be really helpful. So some examples of this type of activity would be anything following a pattern, knitting, sewing, those types of things. Lego, making a model, paint by numbers, or something that involves really clear directions. Maybe you're making a model boat, or also just anything using step-by-step tutorials, which there are so many of in our world right now. So do something that involves a lot of different steps and you're following the instructions really clearly. These types of activities are best to use when you're feeling overwhelmed or indecisive and you're just needing to create some clarity in your brain and how you're moving forward. Structured activities are also great if you're not sure where to start, because they don't involve you having to come up with a great idea. So maybe instead of sitting down at a piece of paper and trying to figure out what to draw, you're starting with a template already and you're coloring that in. So there's just something nice about starting with something that has some structure when you're getting back into creativity. And the last one we're going to talk about is digital creativity. And this really just involves using technology for creative expression. There are so many ways to do this. Like, I think about open-ended games like Animal Crossing or Zelda Breath of the Wild or Stardew Valley, where you are creating your own little world. And there's all sorts of fun and enjoyment in that type of creative expression. You're building a little village or a house or a community. The Sims is another great version of that kind of a game. You can also do things using digital tools like graphic design, making music, maybe mixing some sounds, editing videos, basically anything that's involving a digital tool. And that can be learning a new skill, or it can just be working on a fun creative project that is using your imagination in a really different way. This is also a really accessible way to be creative. So if you find that you don't have a lot of time or you don't have a lot of materials, there are so many little creative things that you can do even just on your phone that are really fun. To use digital creativity when you really want to explore a different medium, when maybe you don't have a lot of tools or resources, or technology might be the tool that you're the most comfortable with. So don't be afraid to try out different things and see what works for you. We've looked at all these different types of creativity. So how do you figure out what is best for you to do if you're wanting to start a new hobby or activity? Well, I think the most important thing is to really reflect on, what do I want to get out of this experience? Do I just want to get myself doing something creative again? And is following a step-by-step tutorial or something with structure the best way for me to get back into something creative? Or do I need my emotions to have an opportunity to be expressed through some type of creativity? Or maybe it's even, I want to go back to doing something that I did when I was younger, but it's been so long and I don't have the tools and materials anymore. But I know it's something that I enjoyed doing back when I was younger and I want to get back into it. If you start with, what do I want to get out of it? It's going to help you to develop the right kind of activities. It's probably best to not jump into a really big project. So don't start something really big when you're just trying to get back into it. Work on a really small project instead of trying to do something really big. Because when you do big things, you're probably going to get a little bit overwhelmed at the beginning, or you're going to lose track of where you are if you run out of time. So try to pick things you can start that are small and are going to allow you to do a little bit at a time. It's also good to try to start with things that don't require a lot of tools. So for example, if you have a pair of knitting needles and some yarn and you want to knit, that's great. But if you want to start weaving, for example, and you don't have a loom and you don't have a bobbin winder and you don't have a shuttle and all these things, you're going to end up spending a whole bunch of money on a craft that you don't even know if you're going to like it or not. So don't start with buying big kits of things or trying to get all of the materials you're going to need to do some big craft or activity. Just start with something small because the goal is to ease back into creativity. It's not to overwhelm yourself. So start small. Think of all the creative things that you did when you were a kid that were just used materials that you had around your house. So start with something like that. And I think another really great thing to consider is that social connection to others also really helps you to establish a creative habit or to get connected back into a creative routine. So take an art course, join a guild, join a knitting circle, do something that's going to allow you to make some connections with others, because you might find that there's some shared accountability in that. And you might also just enjoy having that connection to people that share the same interests and activities as you. If you already know what you want to do and you're just having a really hard time getting started or getting back into that kind of craft or activity, again, I would start small. Only give yourself 10 or 15 minutes a day to work on something and try to focus on the goal of not paying attention to your end result, but on the process of what it is that you're doing, because that's where you're going to find that joy and satisfaction. And if you're focused on what you're trying to achieve or create at the end, it might take a while before you're creating anything that looks good. So you don't want to give up on it because you feel like you're not good enough. Just give yourself something small and focus on the technique, the materials, how it feels, or how you can adapt a technique so that it works for you. Those types of things are really great to focus on at the beginning because you're not going to feel all those creative blocks pop up like comparison with others or need for perfection. Just let yourself create and experiment and enjoy the process. Once you've had a few weeks of doing a little bit of creativity every day, it's going to feel a lot easier to then step back into some bigger projects, or you're not going to feel as overwhelmed if you start something that you're then splitting up over multiple days of work. So give yourself some time to establish that habit and then jump into projects that are bigger and more exciting. And don't forget, you don't have to show anyone your work. You don't have to share it with others. You don't have to post it on Instagram. You can just work away at an activity and get good at that feeling of engaging in creativity. Creativity and producing an end result are not the same thing. So stay in the moment, enjoy what you're working on, and don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect. And don't forget, if you're looking for other ideas, I do have a free guide with 160 different creative activities that you can use to get started. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below and let me know if you have reconnected with something creative and you're enjoying that time, or if this video is helpful. I'd love to hear about your own creative journey.